All right, let's talk about India's economy. Because right now, it feels like we're getting two completely different stories. On one hand, you see all these headlines about market turmoil and a falling rupee. But then, behind the scenes, you have these huge companies making these massive, multi-billion-dollar bets on the future. So, what is actually going on? Are we looking at turmoil or a total transformation? Let's break it down.
So let's start with what everyone's seeing day to day. If you just looked at the headlines from, say, December 29th, 2025, you'd probably think things look, well, a little shaky. The year's definitely closing out on a turbulent note for the markets.
Okay, so first up, the BSE Sensex. It closed down 346 points. And that's not just a one-off bad day. This was its fourth straight day of losses. A lot of this is because it's the end of the year, trading is kind of quiet, and you've got foreign funds pulling money out. It's exactly the kind of thing that makes investors start to feel pretty nervous.
And it wasn't just the stock market either. At the same time, the Indian rupee fell to a record low against the US dollar. I mean, look at that. It's closing in on 90. A weak rupee like this just adds another layer of anxiety to the whole picture because, it makes imports more expensive and all that.
So what are the experts saying? Well, this quote from Vinod Nair at Geojit Investments pretty much sums it up. He says the market is short on catalysts for further upside. Basically, there's no big good news on the horizon to push things higher. So we're likely heading into a consolidation phase, which is just a fancy way of saying things might just stall out for a bit. The vibe is definitely cautious.
So yeah, that paints a pretty gloomy picture, right? But is that the whole story? What happens when we zoom out, when we stop looking at the day-to-day market jitters and start looking at the massive strategic chess moves that some of India's biggest companies are making? That's when things get really interesting.
Okay, first up, let's talk tech, because there is a multi-billion-dollar bet being placed right now that tells a very different story.
Check this out. The Indian IT firm Coforge just dropped some huge news. They're acquiring a US company called Encora, which is a big deal because Encora is AI native. This isn't just some boring corporate merger. No way. This is a massive strategic move to go all in on artificial intelligence.
And we are talking big money here. This deal creates a new combined powerhouse that's expected to pull in $2.5 billion a year in revenue. Just like that, you have a brand new, heavy-hitting player on the global stage with AI right at its core.
So let's be super clear about what's happening here. This deal is all about strategy. Coforge is buying Encora to get its hands on some serious AI expertise. They're aiming to supercharge their business, especially in booming areas like healthcare and high-tech. So they're not just getting bigger for the sake of it. They're repositioning themselves to be a leader in the next generation of technology.
All right, that was tech. Now let's switch gears to retail, because there's another revolution happening there, and it's happening at, well, lightning speed.
So, to really get this next story, we need to be on the same page about what quick commerce even is. Forget waiting a day or even a few hours for your stuff. We're talking about getting groceries, snacks, whatever you need, delivered to your door in like 10 to 20 minutes. It's completely changing the game, especially in big cities.
And the company that's absolutely crushing it in this space is Zepto. And they've just filed the papers to go public with a major IPO. Now, this is a huge signal. It tells you that this whole quick commerce thing isn't just some passing trend. It's a real, mature business model that's ready for the big leagues, the public stock market. And the confidence from investors? It's off the charts. Get this. Zepto's last private funding round valued the company at a mind-blowing $7 billion. That is an absolutely insane number for a company that's only been around for a few years. It just shows you how much people believe this thing is going to grow. And you know what? That confidence isn't just hype. Look at these numbers. In a single week in December, Zepto added 1.2 million new users. That's more than triple what its main competitors, Blinkit, Swiggy Instamart, and Geomart, added combined. They aren't just part of the growth story, they are the growth story in this sector right now.
Okay, so this brings us back to that puzzle we started with. In the middle of all this market uncertainty, a shaky Sensex, a weak rupee, why on earth are companies like Coforge and Zepto making these unbelievably bold multi-billion-dollar moves? It seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
Well, the answer seems to be that they're playing a completely different game. They're not worried about the daily noise. They're looking at the bigger picture. As this analyst, Dr. Vijay Kumar, puts it, they see solid fundamentals. He even calls it a Goldilocks setting. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for robust growth.
They're betting that today's market slump is just a blip, and that 2026 is going to be a whole different ballgame.
So here's the key takeaway. The real story isn't what the Sensex did today. It's in these massive strategic bets. These companies are playing the long game. They're ignoring the short-term panic and pouring money into building a real sustainable advantage in things like AI and super-fast logistics. They're investing now so they can dominate the market for years to come.
So what we're left with is this incredible split personality. It's like we have two completely different stories unfolding in one single economy.
On one hand, you've got the day-to-day noise, the stock market jitters, the rupee feeling the pressure, and a general mood of caution. But then, right alongside that, there's this powerful undercurrent of real, long-term transformation. We're talking game-changing AI acquisitions, massive IPOs in brand-new industries, and this laser focus on what the future holds. And really, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Which one of these stories is going to win out? Is the future of India's economy going to be defined by the short-term turbulence we see in the headlines, or by these incredible long-term transformations happening just beneath the surface? The answer to that is really going to define what 2026 looks like.
Hey, if this explainer helped you connect the dots and see the bigger picture, do us a favor and hit that like button. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive.
And we really want to hear from you on this one. Which story do you think is the real one? Turmoil or transformation? Let us know what you're thinking down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in.